All right, let's take a look now on the charts at Binance Coin on the daily. If we bring up just the MACD chart by itself, we can talk about the parts of the MACD that we mentioned in the PDF. So as you can see there, we've got 3 parts to the MACD. We've got our signal line, which is located there in red. And then we've got our MACD line that we pointed out as well on the charts there in the blue. And then we've got the histogram, which is the difference between the MACD and the signal line. So we can see a positive histogram there in green, and then we can see that a negative or sort of a bearish histogram, I suppose, is the best way to describe it, which shows the increasing or the decreasing distance between the MACD and the signal line. So if we bring up the BNB chart now, let's have a look for some examples of where the MACD might have made us some money, just using, which we can see here on the charts, buying volume, the MACD, and of course, we've got our lines of support, resistance, and our trend lines that we've gone over in previous videos as well. So let's take a look, Adz.
So using some of the stuff that we've taught you guys over the last couple of weeks, if we start by drawing in our trend line, our resistance tie, and maybe we'll draw in a support as well.
Yep, really good idea that Adam has just sort of stated there. Start with your fundamentals, your lines of support, your lines of resistance, any trend lines that you might find. And then we use these indicators as a means to sort of confirm what we're seeing on the charts without having too much noise on the charts as well. One mistake I think that a lot of beginners make is trying to confirm their bias with using a ton of different indicators, a ton of different lines, all these different things to try and say to themselves, yeah, that's initially what I was thinking in the beginning, but you're totally off. So again, this is why we sort of just teach the simple stuff: support, resistance, trend lines, MACD, and a couple other things we're going to show you in following weeks. But this is a very good way to sort of just set up a chart before you really start diving in and looking for ways to make profits.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, having a look at the first move on BNB, obviously you weren't really going to know where the resistance was going to be on this chart, but using our MACD indicator on its own tie, you would be able, if you were holding BNB from a very early point, you'd be able to see, where you could potentially sell that instrument relatively close to the top, or before it started to really move out of that area tie. So if we bring our vertical line on the screen, all right, you would have had your MACD cross just about there, right? We can indicate that on the MACD also, okay? So if you're holding BNB from a very early stage, maybe at pre-sale or something like that, you could have held it all the way up and used your MACD on its own, the crosses of the signal line and the MACD line, to identify where you would have got out of that trade tie.
Yep. And to be fair there as well, again, another mistake that you see a lot of beginners traders and even some more experienced traders, I suppose, looking is trying to chart a coin that doesn't have a great deal of previous data. So we see this a lot of the times now with the new Binance released coins like Matic, CELR, FET is another one. People saying, well, we're going to stop here because that was previous resistance or that was previous support. And it's only been the first couple of touches of support or resistance on a line. There's not a lot of previous data. So that's a little bit of an extreme example on Binance Coin. But as we start going along the charts, you'll see that these indicators and these lines of support and resistance are respected enough with enough previous data to look at that we can make pretty responsible decisions as to whether we're going to buy or sell.
Yeah, that's right. So looking on to our next move, our next major move coming into this area here, we had a lot of noise, Ty, on the MACD, a lot of false crosses and stuff like that around support. So if you were hanging your orders around this support level, you would have been fairly safe anyway. But coming up from this support level, when we started to see the volume increase, Ty,
Yep,
right?
as our friend Cole Garner says in the Trade Hacker podcast, volume precedes price, and we can also see the increasing sort of bullish distance between those on the histogram too, which indicates a little bit more of a divergence between the signal line and the MACD line.
So if we were actively trading this and we were plotting our resistances onto the chart actively, you would have seen it blow straight through this resistance, and then we have that what we said in the last couple of weeks, the resistance or the support flip, where resistance becomes support and then it pushes off. If you were trading this, actively trading this, or you were looking for an entry, you could have identified that the MACD didn't cross over. It was consistently bullish the whole way through, and it did blast all the way through that next resistance up to that level here, where you did have your indication to sell, Ty.
Yep, your bullish and your bearish crosses. So as we know from our PDF, once the MACD line crosses positively over the signal line, we've got a bullish sort of signal. And of course, we would start seeing the increasing positive or the green sizes of the histogram bars. And then conversely as well, when we start to go bearish, we get a bearish crossover where the MACD line crosses through the signal line, indicating a bearish trend. And again, we can see directly under that as well, we've got a little bit of an increase in selling volume, a decrease in buying volume, and then we're starting to get the larger red histogram bars indicating more selling pressure.
Exactly. So moving on to the next sort of price action in that space. We won't go through all of it. We'll go through some of the major ones. If you were to be drawing your trend line down, Ty, as well, that's something that we did cover, if I'm not wrong. We did come down, break through our trend, and also we did have a bullish MACD cross on the indicator on the daily. So coming up, breaking through our trend, our MACD cross, if you were buying that break of the trend line, you could have been in that trade the entire way up, or if you maybe bought the pullback, for example, you could have held that trade all the way up until something like that, Ty. Something like that where we're having another bearish cross on the MACD.
Yeah, exactly. And again, not to harp on it, but keeping things simple, we haven't even thrown in anything else like RSI or Fibonacci retracements or extensions or any Bollinger Bands, any other the tools that are available in our arsenal. This is purely just looking at a couple of things to sort of to tell us where price may be headed. Three simple things: trend lines, support, resistance, buying volume, MACD. That's four things, sure, but there's not too much noise there with the information that we've been giving and being given rather. And if we look at the crosses there on the MACD each time, like purely playing that alone, what are some of those percentage gains that we could have made there at?
We'll have a look at some of the percentages. If you were looking at just the crosses on their own, so if we bought the cross, for example, if you bought, it would have been there roughly, Ty, and you sold the next cross, which was about there, that's a 97% gain from breaking the trend and breaking our previous resistance line to the bearish cross on the MACD to tell you when to get out of that trade.
Yeah, admittedly, again, we're looking at the daily timeframes here, so you would have had to have held that for around a month, I suppose, to get those sorts of gains. But you're not going to see those sorts of results sort of typically, I suppose, a lot of the time. But again, just a couple of indicators, basic things. And, we also saw from that downtrend line that we had there in green, we had a really strong breakthrough. And again, it's another reason why we wait for confirmation post that very bullish breakout there, that big green candlestick. We've not seen a huge amount of bearish action there as well. We had a little bit of a dip down before we then we continued onwards. But if we had have sold at the bottom of that little bit of red, we would have made a big mistake because there was no indication on the MACD there telling us to sell. The histogram bars are still looking very green, still looking very positive. There was no bullish cross or any crosses over the MACD or signal line. And there was a good amount of buying volume there. So again, that's enough of an indication for us to say, right, we might hold this position and continue holding it up until we get the next cross. And if we had done that, then 97% was coming your way.
Yeah, exactly. It's all being patient and developing a strategy around the tools that you're using. So using nothing but support, resistance, trend lines, and the MACD and some volume indication, you're making these incredible gains as long as you're patient and as long as you're following the plan that you put in place.
Yeah, and if you were to go back and have a look on the website, unitytradinggroup.com, you'll see that we have an article and a video series that we shared there with some of our private traders where we identified what type of trader we are or what type of trader suits you best. You know, you've got your scalper, your day traders, your swing traders, which a lot of, Adz and I identify as swing traders, as do a lot of our students as well. And that's about letting setups come to you and then letting exits come to you as well. It's about not jumping in or out of a trade too early or too late for that matter. And these are the sorts of things that you would use as a swing trader to give you those positive confirmations so you're not buying or selling a position too early.
The next one that I wanted to quickly have a look at too, Ty, just the last example that we'll go through is this one here. All right, so you've got a lot of selling volume or some indecision on the MACD. But when we had this big breakout through that resistance line, we came down and we flipped our resistance to support. We did have a decent amount of buying volume on the MACD also. So you could have been in for this move as well.
Yeah, and what would we have made on that one there Adz too? Because remember, again, there's nothing there indicating to us that we're having any sort of bearish momentum until we get to the top there. Histograms are green. There's no crossover of the lines. Half decent sort of buying volume. And you would have made another 56% on that. So that's using your support resistance flip and just some basic tools.
With I want to have a quick chat as well about this sort of move here, Ty, where we did have a quick dip down and retest of that signal line, Ty.
Mm-hmm.
So what we really look for is a confirmed break, or a confirmed cross, where we maybe wait another candle or two to signal our exit for that trade.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not caught out on something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that. That comes down again to that art of patience, not selling too early or buying too early for that matter. Wait for some preceding candles or a little bit more information, because some of these indicators are lagging indicators. They don't give immediate information, so you've sort of got to wait for things to play out a little bit to confirm whether you're going to enter that position or not. So yeah, definitely wait for confirmation to ensure that that you're not selling or giving away some profits unnecessarily.
Yep, that's it.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back next week for another one of our favorite indicators. As always, you can jump into unitytradinggroup.com, jump into our dedicated Discord channel for beginner traders where we're happy to answer all of your questions about MACD and everything else we've got coming up in our Ultimate Beginner Trading Series. But for now, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Ty.